everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Allison Drini, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tom McGorman. Tom, how are we doing today?
Man, I need a haircut. I just saw myself in this camera now.
Your hair is getting
You got a haircut?
long.
Look at you, looking fresh
Guys,
and fly.
I saw Tom's hair on the way home from CMP this weekend. I saw Tom's hair not in normal Tom mode. It was like normal human mode. I saw normal
I wore
human
a hat all
Tom.
day.
Yeah.
I can't believe you said something about that. I didn't think that anybody said anything, or you would notice.
You know what, Tom? I think normal human hair on you looks good.
Oh, thanks.
So
You too, I think.
if I had hair still.
I don't know. It didn't come out right.
I'm sure.
Anyway, I'm fine.
Sure
How are you?
if I had hair, it would look great.
It looks great.
It looks great. Yes, thanks, Tom. Good, man. I'm still recovering. Me and Tom were both at CMP this weekend, and yeah, the track hangover is real. The dopamine anti-slap of like looking at your inbox at work on a Monday morning was tough.
How come you didn't get President's Day off?
I don't know. We get random holidays off, but not President's Day.
I feel like that's anti-American. I took that day off.
Oh,
my boss gave me that day off.
Tom took it off. Tom's like, you know what?
Yep.
We're taking this is a national holiday. Dang it, I'm taking this day off.
Well, I noticed we have a group of friends that play video games together still ever since COVID, but obviously that's died off a lot. And I noticed that there were a group of them in playing video games at like 1 p.m. Like, what's happening? This is like a Monday. Why are they all slacking at the same time? So I looked at my Google Calendar and turned the holidays on, and sure enough, it was President's Day.
Oh,
that's national holidays like that don't exist for me, really. It's just like a day of the week.
That's why that's like you did like your troubleshooting instead of like popping in being like, what are you guys doing in here? You're like, I'm gonna Google why my friends would be in this Discord.
A little bit. I didn't want to just pop in and be like, what are y'all slackers doing? Why aren't you at work?
Yeah, man, if I was thinking, I was even talking to my coworkers. I'm like, man, can you imagine having like enough vacation days where like you go to the racetrack and then you have like a recovery day, like the day after, like how nice that would be. And then I thought about that for like another like 10 seconds and I went, oh, actually that probably just means I would find a way to also be driving on a racetrack on Monday. So that wouldn't really fix anything. It's not like you would have a recovery day. It's just you would have another day to do the fun stuff.
Maybe, although I do really, really like the standard grid life schedule where you compete Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday is you can either choose to stay at the track, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like that's actually really nice. You get back.
It is pretty nice.
Whenever you feel like you need to.
It is nice. So
it just means you have to take like Thursday off instead of Monday though.
Yeah. Yeah. That is what that means. Yeah, you kind of have to take, well, you have to take a vacation day with the grid life events because the competition on Friday, right?
Right.
So
right.
Normally, like if it's the competition's Saturday, Sunday, depending on how close you live, you might not have to take a vacation day. If you got everything loaded up and you leave straight from work on Friday, right? You might be able to make it. But anyways, for those who haven't been following any social medias, and the podcast is the only way you keep track of Tom and I, which I'm sure that exists out there. We were at a NASA event this last weekend, which was my first ever NASA event. And I was there to practice.
First time in space.
It was. I went to space camp, everyone. It was great.
You're a space cadet now.
Woo! I got my wings. I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was my first NASA event. I was there with Peter Lear. Me and Peter are doing one lap together, and I haven't driven a car in 5 months, or a Porsche Cayman before. And so Peter generously invited me to CMP to drive and practice his car. And I did, I don't know, how many sessions did I do? Like 5 sessions? 6? 5?
6. 4 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday.
Yep. We left a little early on Sunday just so we didn't get home at 3 or 4 in the morning. But I am now practiced in a GT4 Cayman for 1 lap. So, and we got to talk about one lap a lot and like Tom, I'm freaking excited.
I'm excited too. I'm
It's gonna
excited
be
for you.
it's gonna be so I can't wait. I think the Cayman's gonna do better than people will expect that it will. Just because like when you look at the list of like 600, 700 horsepower cars, and you got 380 horsepower Cayman, I think the Cayman's actually gonna do pretty well. It was should we talk about should I jump right into what I thought about a GT4 Cayman?
Well, real quick, let me do a quick thing on one lap.
Okay.
Um, so I've been lucky to do one lap the last 3 years, and it's such a cool event because it doesn't work like literally any other event. And it was really fun to watch you. Not only like obviously you got to drive the car, you got to do the event for the weekend, but like the main topic of conversation kept coming back to one lap because that's what we were there to practice. You were there to practice for. I just went to hang out. And watching and like talking about the little things that matter and things that don't matter and whatever. And you're right. I know that the Cayman will do better than it should, quote unquote, because tire rack. Oh my god. As I mentioned,
We're both
little fried.
we're both a little fried from the weekend, so
I'm not fried from the weekend. I just feel like I'm getting sick a little bit, and I just recorded a podcast before this, so I'm on hour 2 and some of recording
uh-oh.
podcasts. But what I meant to say is the One Lap of America is unique because you have to take the same car to every single event on the same tires you compete on with no support, no trailering, no nothing like that. So the decisions you make going into the event are super critical with what type of tire you choose, and understanding what the car needs out of the tire and out of like the setup and stuff. For the most part, people do it in like stock supercars and like performance cars. So like the slower performance cars are still, let's say FRSs, some Sunday Cup cars. There's like Mustangs, Corvettes, and then there's supercars obviously towards the front for the most part. And all that to say, you guys are running the Bridgestone RE71 RS is your plan, which is like basically top tier 200 treadwear tire. But that means different things than somebody who chooses to run like we have in the last couple of years, the 300 treadwear tires that are theoretically better in the rain, theoretically better for the transits. Like honestly, driving down the road on like half worn out Bridgestones or Yokohamas and it starts to downpour between two tracks.
Ooh, I didn't think about
Like,
that.
yeah, there's all this stuff that you don't think about when you're just like, oh, I want the best tire. That's not really how it works. So that is both not how it works. But since you guys are running such a competitive tire, you can have a little bit less car versus like we are not running the most competitive tire by choice, but we have a faster car. Like we're running a 911 GT3, you're in a Cayman GT4, but because your tires and my tires are offset, then we're probably going to run like the same times, basically.
If I could put it together. Um,
Yeah.
if right, like I think what's cool about the Ven is that because it's you get 3 laps in the morning. It's like a standing start, and then
Yep.
that's the start of lap one, and then you do another lap, and then another lap, and then like you're scored based on that, and then in the afternoon you do the same thing. And I don't exactly remember how you and Salil are planning on splitting it, but me and Peter, I got a couple tracks that I'm gonna do, and it's my job to be like studied up on them. Like for instance, one of the first tracks we drive is Hastings. Yes, Hastings. I was like, wait, if I forgot the name of it, then I'm sucking at studying. But that's I've never been there. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get a chance to go there, but I'll download like a mod and like a set of Corsa and like watch videos and like maybe even like try to find like a track guide like akin to like like the track guides that you would come up with or something, right? I'll find something so I don't go into that blind because it's already been established that Hastings will be my responsibility to try to extract the most out of the car on. And the fact that it's a team event I think is what I'm most excited about because like the GLTC races that I've gotten to do, like co-driving with somebody, you would think, oh, you're splitting the weekend. It's like that's it's half as fun, right? Because you're splitting the weekend. But I've always had like even more fun, honestly, because you're working together with somebody, and that like camaraderie is like super fun. So I'm like really excited to have that camaraderie with Peter, and like just try to have the most like mistake free like flawless event that we can have. And it's not like and what's cool about the event is it's not just like 2 days. It's like what 8 days essentially.
It's 7 days of competition plus one day at the beginning for like all the setup driver's meetings, stickers on the car. Yeah.
And that's
So we're planning on. Go ahead.
that's absolutely a day of the competition because that's where all the shit is talked. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We all stand in the parking lot in at a hotel in
It's like a
South
rap
Bend,
battle.
Indiana, just like
Yep.
trash talking and putting stickers on cars.
It's a rap
But
battle.
we're planning on we're hoping and planning on doing daily podcasts that week of One Lap. So you'll definitely be hearing a lot more like as we lead into it and while we're doing it. We might even daily vlog it, like actually do daily videos, but we'll definitely plan on doing like daily, maybe 20-30 minute podcasts while we're in paddock, because between the morning and afternoon segments at like 8 a.m. and 1 p.m., we'll just be sitting there. So as long as we can find somebody to transport the podcast machine around,
Yeah,
we'll get to do that.
find a smaller podcast machine, like
Yeah.
temporarily, or like maybe I can borrow one from somebody or something.
We can throw it in the media car.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it would be cool if it was more portable than it is, because remember I need a battery pack. Excuse me, with it as well. So, uh, if it's like if it's a handheld one that has like its own internal battery, that would work the best for
Right.
something like that. Which it sounds insane. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna need more equipment. Like when we have like literally the holy grail of like podcast machines over here, but
Yeah.
yeah, something
Anyway, I
like
just
that
wanted
would
to
be a
say that about
better
the
tool.
event.
Yeah, the worst part about the event is that it's hard to follow. So we hope that like having a podcast during it, and maybe even like bring in different guests and like just chit chatting, and like we'll kind of just recap the thing and share some of the shenanigans that have happened. We think that honestly might be one of the best ways to follow the event, because we can quickly upload those audio little blurbs. Um, so we think that'll bring a lot of new viewers and listeners to the podcast as well, because it really is going to be probably one of the better ways to follow the event.
Yep, I agree.
So, all right. So
So now launch into what you think. What do you think of a Porsche Cayman GT4 DJ 2022 4.0 liter? That's all I know.
that's the extent of Tom's knowledge on the Cayman, and honestly, mine
It's
too.
green.
It is green. It's a very pretty green. I posted my best lap on the NASA page. Just being like, hey everyone, I was the green Cayman, first NASA event. Like I had fun. Um, and then I said something about like I believe the car would be TT3, and then they're like a Porsche Cayman in TT3, no way. And then like as like I had all these people explaining to me like the classing and everything, and then we like started entering stuff in the calculator, it like actually was TT3, which like, look, I don't know anything about NASA classing, but when you start looking at the other cars in TT3, a Cayman seems like a complete overdog. Like it does not seem fair. Um, but it was we were on Bridgestones. We were on like little Bridgestones. We were 245 fronts and then 285 rears. And
Little.
they're kind of little when it comes to supercar tires, Tom.
They average out to being kind of little.
Yeah, exactly. So, uh, it's man, it's a very nice car. I said that in one of my Facebook stories. It was just, it just did all the things so well, and I think the thing that was so great about it is it felt like a car from the factory that was designed just to do laps. And it did it so well. It felt like like it was never. I'm used to cars where you're like having to like mess with them in between every session, and this it felt so weird. I would lap the car for 20 minutes, and I'd just park and I'd get out of it, and I'm like, yeah, it's good. You wouldn't even have to like look at it. Like I would walk around and look at the rotors and stuff just out of habit, but like there wasn't anything to check. The car literally just comes from the factory ready to do laps. It's so cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, if liking that car is making me a car guy, then I guess I'm a car guy, Tom.
So I liked my favorite was like one of the very first things you said after you drove the first session was, no, you hadn't even driven the first session. We were in grid 4
I
the first
literally
session.
drove
And
it to grid, and I was like, "Ooh, I really like this thing."
you were like, Tom, I think this car's making me a car guy.
Uh,
But I won't accuse you of being a car guy because you like a
Thank you.
Porsche Cayman. Like, that's a pretty standard.
No, I realized I wasn't a car guy when people in this, on this, post that I made in NASA, they're like, "Why are you running smaller than OEM tires?" And I'm like, "Guys, I don't know what the size of OEM tires are." And then somebody else was like posted some stat about the car, and I'm just like, "I don't know, guys, I just drove it." I literally I realized very quickly how much I didn't know about the car, like, at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, all these
Welcome to the, welcome to the life where you show up and drive a car you know nothing about, and everyone's like, "So, da 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 da." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, I don't
that's that
know.
one's green."
I hit the buttons. I turned all the lights on
Yeah.
in the center console and then did laps, like, that's what I did.
My other favorite comment of the weekend was, "The Cayman is the Civic Si of supercars."
Oh, it
Do you remember
definitely
saying
is.
that?
Yep, yep, it definitely is, and what I meant by that is because it was so easy to drive.
Yep.
It didn't do anything bad. It wasn't, like, snappy, it wouldn't, like, rotate too quickly on entry, but you could definitely get it, like, floating on entry. Um, it carved really well. Like, it was just in a 8th gen Civic kind of feels it feels kinda similar where it's like it doesn't really have any, like, glaringly bad issues and is really easy to drive. Like the ABS is good. The throttle, like actually, I do have one gripe with the Cayman. The throttle pedal has like a damper or something in it where it doesn't feel. It feels like something is like stopping me. If I want to move it really fast, I get more resistance. If I like push into it really slow, I get less resistance. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sure the 911 is the same
No.
way.
No, I've never noticed that, but I was gonna ask, does it have, like, the extra kinda bump at the bottom?
No, it did
Like,
not.
where you go it did not, okay. I'm surprised by that because I think
Audis
I
have
don't
that.
remember if the Sure, a lot of automatics that are, like, maybe a little more it's basically like a downshift cue. It's like, "No, I mean it, I want full throttle."
Yeah, I remember I was going down the straight and Peter had like one of those Garmin catalysts and it was giving me my optimal and I was going down the straight and my optimal wasn't changing. And then at one point it just started ticking down. I'm like, I'm driving down a straightaway. What do you why did you start ticking down? And so my instant troubleshooting was like push the pedal harder to like, is there like it am I not floored? Um and and I pushed and nothing happened and I was like, okay, maybe just the data's a little weird or something because
Yeah,
it did like sectors. So I think what happened is I went into another sector and my best time in that sector I got a better exit out of like the corner before or something like that.
sure.
So
Yeah,
that's
it could've ticked over yeah, it was probably a sector thing where the
yeah,
Garmin because the Garmin just, automatically sets the sectors, you don't get a choice.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And the Garmin was like it was pretty cool. It did one thing. I know we've talked about data stuff on the podcast before. So I've never used a Garmin before, and now I actually have. And I think the best setup is an AIM and a Garmin, which sounds crazy because that's like so much money.
You basically want the Garmin for a display in the cockpit, and then you want the AIM for actual data
Actual
analysis,
data.
right?
Yeah, actual data.
Yeah.
The Garmin did a really cool thing, especially if you're doing like HPDEs, where it would give you your optimal time. And as far as I know, no other lap timer gives you an optimal time. And the optimal was cool because you could see what your like even if you didn't set your best lap because like traffic was bad or whatever, like you probably got a couple clear sectors like in like throughout the lap and you're like cool, I get a half of a lap completely traffic free and you can try to like make your optimal lap better and that was like to me that was like the instantaneous feedback that we talk about on the podcast where it's good for, like, the learning because you get that instantaneous feedback of, like, "Okay, I strung those corners together like this, the car felt like that, and my optimal went down." Boom, instantaneous feedback, like, I did good, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, like, let's say you put together, like, kind of a crappy lap on an aim, and that happens to be your best lap, but there was multiple points in that lap where you didn't do your best. Well, now when you're lapping for the rest of the weekend on the aim, it's showing you the data on that best lap, even though there's some sectors in there where like you have done that sector better, but not on that particular lap, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I never really thought about the optimal thing before until you said it, but the You're talking optimal in that these are your best sectors put together, and it shows you that information all the time rather than just a predictive relative to your best lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you're right is nice. I always use the aim. I go into the sectors and look at my predicted optimal
After.
anyway after. But I've literally never looked at the optimal while I'm on track. But it is super helpful, especially on those busier days or like in pro racing before I used to sector the laps just to make sure that people didn't like really see my potential. If I didn't want them to, and to have that information literally right in front of you is pretty helpful.
Yeah, I think for 1 lap, because you just get those 3 laps, I think it's gonna be actually pretty useful, because you'll like, when I'm learning a track in
So
iRacing, I always set it to optimal because I might mess this part up, but, like, I want to see each sector. And now the limiting factor on the Garmin is going to be how well it, like, because the biggest flaw on it is you don't have a lot of customizability, at least from what I could see. If I could set my own sectors, then that would be, like, way better, right?
yeah, that's my main complaint with the Garmin is that it's so rigid. Also, when you're asking like, Peter, does this camera connect to the Garmin? If you don't have that camera connected, the whole thing doesn't work. Like you have to have literally every single piece of it plugged in,
For real?
functioning, powered with the like everything has to be there or it won't work. So it's very rigid for sure.
It's very
But
rigid.
what was it? The other thing, be careful is the one lap format. Like you're not going from a pit lane and doing a warm up lap and like getting. It's not going to be like what you just got. You're going to be sitting on start finish straight, stationary,
And it's go time.
launching from a standstill, right? So that Garmin data will not even show you anything until like lap 3, because the first lap is nothing. It'll start on the second lap, so you have no reference, and then lap 3 is the when you're done, right? So
Uh,
it might be it'll be helpful in the afternoon a little bit, but it's not going to be as good as you think. I don't think.
yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, you'll get something for the second, but you won't have anything for the first.
I don't think it'll start for the first because you're going to be starting stationary on the pit lane or on the front straight. Because the Garmin won't keep running when you stop like that. It'll stop and then it'll restart when you launch the car. The whole first lap it'll be like drive to the start finish line to start this thing.
It doesn't turn off when you stop the car unless you tell it to turn off. You have to end the session manually.
Oh, true.
So when I
We'll
stop,
see.
it will have a prompt to like end session. Like, what are you doing? Why are you stopped on the racetrack? But if I
Right.
never like undo the belts and like lean over and unhook it or hit the done button, then it will just stay in that state. And then once I start rolling again, because we'll talk about it. But at one point I got black flagged. I didn't have to reset the thing.
It might work then, but it's that one lap format of like not starting like a normal session
Yeah.
makes data tricky sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. We'll have to see.
So my other thought, I was going to agree with you on the sense going back to the Cayman. I've always compared it to a Civic Type R. I'm not a big fan of Caymans because I think they're generally like they're so competent that they are no longer that interesting to drive. They're not that exciting. Um, and like Civic Type R's are absolutely the same way. You said SIs, but like Civic Type R's are so competent from the factory, minus the fact that they used to overheat and stuff, that they're not really that thrilling to drive versus like an ND Miata or something like that, where it's just like it's actually like engaging and you're a part of it, and if you're doing better, it does better for you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like do you agree that the Cayman just like kind of did what it did,
It kind of very
like it
much did what it did.
or did what it would do,
Yeah,
did what it did?
it's like you got it like with the Cayman, and this is like what my problem is with like GT4s in iRacing. So it's kind of cool that they lined up. Is if you just did the fundamentals well, a good lap time popped out. You didn't have to like
Yeah,
wring its neck. You placed the car well, limit of adhesion, lap time. There was no like there wasn't like a ton of nuance in like exactly how to extract speed out of the car. It was just like solid fundamentals, car placement, you're good.
yeah, which is kind of why I'm like not as engaged with them. That weirdly, the 911 is different. The 911 is pretty dynamic.
Just cuz
So I don't understand.
just cuz of
I
the
guess
ass
it's yes.
engine, or
Yep.
yeah, interesting. I have some notes here. Tom, you were
Go
right.
for it. Bring it on.
You were right about the car shifting itself. I had the
Did it
short
feel weird?
I the first lap I was like, "Okay, we're just going to try it." In Tom we trust. And I did the first lap with it, and then I quickly realized that, like, there was a specific corner, it was like, what is it called? The carousel, Tom? At
Yeah,
CMP? So it's like turn
5,
f
6, 7.
yeah, 5, 6, 7. Uh, I would have the car loaded on the left rear, and then it would, like, shift in the third, and one thing that I didn't expect, because 'cause I've never driven a car that fast with, like, fast, like DCT or, like, a PDK. Every gear change, it's like a little it, like, kinda hits you a little bit. So I didn't really expect that.
Yeah,
So I would be, like, car loaded up in some slip angle on the left rear tire, leaving the 5, 6, 7 complex, and you have the car, like, really neutral, like, as you're leaving that, and it was, like, just in between 2nd and 3rd gear, and it would pop to 3rd, like, just as I was setting that left rear tire, and nothing like I never, like, gotten, like, a tank slapper or even, like, a big slide where I, like, really had to, like, counter steer and, like, chase the car around, but I knew that the potential was there, especially when the rear tires are starting to get a little hot. So I would short shift, kind of like mash into the throttle, like get the thing in slip angle and like ride that out. And it was like it was gonna be the same speed, but to me it was like much more predictable. So everywhere else on the racetrack, let the car shift. But in that particular spot, unless I missed the paddle, because I don't know what's up with these cars. The paddles are in the worst spots. Um, unless I couldn't find the paddle. They're like it was so far into the wheel. I had to have these like Edward Scissorhand fingers to like get to it, like without like moving my hand off like around the wheel. Or maybe I just
yeah.
got like little short, like stubby, like these fingers are not meant to play pianos. Like trumpet is like all they could ever do. Because
I
I don't know why like any car I've driven with paddles where like you would actually use the paddles. The paddles always suck. I don't know why. I don't know what's up with that.
Do you think it's because 'cause you're too used to your sim wheel?
Absolutely. Guys, I need to install sim wheels in these cars, obviously, because the sim wheels, they got it figured out. I don't know what cars they're basing it off of, but I want to drive those freaking cars with like nicely placed paddles. You know what it is? It's because these are street cars and they don't want people like fiddling around with the paddles as they're like trying to like turn on their windshield wipers or something. I don't know. So they're like
I don't
recessed.
know if
They're
it's
like
that
out of the
so
way.
much.
They're like out of the way, and I don't want them out of the way. I want them like, you know what they need? They need like retractable paddles where like you like pull them out like telescoping.
You need to get a new job and be an OEM, like, quality management guy. You're gonna drive the car and be like, "The pedals are in the wrong
The
spot, and
the
they don't click hard enough."
the paddles suck. It needs to be more clicky and longer.
I also, I feel like I drove a car. I feel like it was for Lamborghini, Ferrari. The paddles didn't move with the wheel, so like the paddle would always be stationary on the steering column.
I think a
So you'd be like
430
going
did
through a
that.
corner,
Was that
and
a
you had to like pull an upshift like
was
this.
it a 430?
I think it was a 488. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong car, but I could have sworn it was a Ferrari. But the steering wheel didn't. The paddles didn't travel with it. It
Yeah,
was so weird.
that is super weird. Like, what are we doing there? Ferrari, come on.
Someone will know. Someone in the live chat maybe can
Yeah,
look can
somebody who's a
will
car
know
guy.
it.
No, if it was a 430, I was gonna be so pumped. I'm like, woo.
That is such a car guy thing to know. I had a car guy moment. Wait, I don't want to cut you off. Cayman.
I was queuing up Carlton McCar guy for a moment there.
Oh, wait, okay. So I had a car guy thing that I watched. I just hung out this weekend. I didn't drive anything. I was just like having a good time being at a racetrack. But I watched this car guy thing happen that was such a perfect depiction to me of what we were talking about when we like joke about car guy stuff.
Yeah.
So I was watching you were on track and there's these everyone was leaving the grid. There's this couple in front with a couple of dogs. And this LS swapped RX-7 pulls out and like gets on the throttle and like grabs a couple gears on a shifter and like you can hear it V8 power like takes off. And the guy turns to his wife who's with them and goes, "That was a V8." And she goes, "What?" And he goes, "That RX-7, that's a Mazda, but that wasn't a rotary." And she goes, "Oh." And then that was the
That
end of
was
the
it.
interaction.
That was it. And you're like freaking car guy.
Hey, you,
I was
you
like,
might
that
have
was
been
such a
talking.
car guy ass car thing to
You
do.
might have been talking about my buddy Bill. Bill loves himself some rotaries, but a V8 rotary, he's kind of a sucker for that too. Let's be honest. What he really wanted to do was look under that hood. If he saw under
A
that
V8
hood,
rotary.
yeah, he really wanted to see that V8 rotary. If he saw that V8 rotary, oh man, his wife would have been so annoyed he would have never shut up about it. It would have been great.
All right, thank Carlton for your buddy Bill.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't say hi to him.
So I got a message on Instagram today. Somebody just started listening to the podcast and they're like starting at episode 1 and they just got to the point of like the sour cream saga. I feel like our podcast has like different sagas.
Yeah.
Yeah. At like some point we'll like think back and Carlton McCarr guy, like he'll stop making appearances at some point. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he'll always stick around, guys. Relax, calm down. Carlton McCarr guy might be here to stay. But
I want to know what a V8 rotary is.
Oh, dude.
Carlton said V8 rotary, and I've never heard of that. So maybe he can figure it out for us someday.
I don't know if I see the chat's going, no, Carlton needs to stick around.
So we had our sour cream era, and we had our Carlton era.
What era are we in right now?
Well, I think we're entering a new era because we talked a lot about it this weekend.
What was the era though? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, boogers.
Can I set this up?
Yeah. I feel like we have to explain boogers, guys. We have a new thing, and we were laughing about it a lot over the weekend. So hopefully we can do a good job of explaining it. Man,
don't worry, I got this.
All right, you got it? Because I'm trying to think of
this.
Okay, this is boogers.
So guys, I gotta bare my soul real quick. If you guys remember the TV show Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, I really liked that show. I thought it was really funny. Before it came out that they were all messed up and there was abuse and family stuff going on, I used to watch that show unironically because I got a belly laugh every single time I watched that TV show. All right, so on Honey Boo Boo, there's this one episode where they're trying to get her to do like a little outro interview, and like she's sitting there and they're gonna film her do her little talking head. And before they start, she sneezes, and these 2 boogers shoot out of her face, and then she goes like and covers her face. And then she realizes, I'm on camera. I have no solution to this problem. I've got boogers hanging out of my face and I don't know what to do. And instead of doing anything about it or cutting the cameras, they put this 6-year-old there in this little chair as she's just looking around, and they don't help her. They just keep filming her. And they leave it on screen for like 2 minutes straight, and she doesn't know what to do, looking around. And she finally gets up like 2 minutes later, gets up and leaves and tries to figure out what to do with these boogers hanging out of her face. So I watched this video of this person in an IMSA race. They spun and they're facing backwards and they don't know what to do. And they sit there forever. And then they start driving backwards and they start to like turn the wrong direction and they realize they're going to get stuck. So they have to like stop again. And all I could think about was that person's sitting in the middle of the track with boogers hanging out of their face and no one knows what to do about it. And then we were like, every single time someone would spin on the racetrack and get stuck, we're like,
boogers. Yep, boogers. So basically boogers is where somebody is in a situation where their bandwidth at the moment is currently limited and they can't think of what the solution is. So they just do nothing instead. And we saw that a lot.
Yep.
We saw that a lot like over the weekend, or like we were it happened in Bathurst because the Bathurst 12-hour was this like it wasn't just like on the racetrack. Like once we realized the boogers, quote unquote, thing, we just started seeing it everywhere. So if you ever see anybody where they're at the limit of their bandwidth and there's some kind of action to be taken, whatever the action is, but instead of any kind of action, they just sit there, boogers.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So is that all the thoughts you have on the Cayman? You stoked about it? You haven't stopped thinking about it?
Might turn me into a car guy. Oh, we brake pedal oddities. I put that in my notes.
So last week I said that I have a hard time with some of the Caymans. They have a really sensitive release right at the top of the pedal travel because they're so overboosted on the brake pedal that it's not like you're still braking. It's the car thinks you want to still be braking. So tell me about what you experienced, because I feel like you said it was better than that, right?
Well, what felt like it was happening is like you'd get in the brakes and the brake pedal would stop at a certain point and you're putting pressure into the system. And then you'd like come over some kind of like modulation or something in the track, and then the ABS would kind of engage just to, keep all 4 tires stopping the car. And then the pedal would sink a little lower, and then some more ABS would happen and it would sink a little lower. And then by the time you were like at the release phase of the corner, the pedal was in like kind of a slightly different spot every time. So like the release on the pedal to like accurately move the weight around the outside of the car felt different, a little different every time, and it made the entry of the car like it feel a little harder than it needed to be because the brake pedal wasn't like exactly in the same spot. It was really weird. I don't know if it was DJ hasn't driven a car in 5 months or just like some weirdness with the brake pedal or maybe even like the brake pads that we were using. But I just felt like the entry was a little tough to get like consistently right. Um and normally I don't have an issue just having like an entry go like how I want it to go, but like the brake pedal was just a little weird. So that was like one thing that I noticed that was weird with the Cayman. And then adding on to that, the throttle felt like it had like a damper or something on it, where like if I wanted to get in it quickly, I had more resistance than if I was pushing into it slower. So it felt like there was like some kind of like speed, basically like a shock. It felt like there was a shock on the pedal, and there might actually be a shock on the pedal. That makes sense to like protect like rich dudes from like spinning their Cayman like driving around on the street or something, right? I don't know. I don't know why it would be
That's
there.
why they're not the Mustangs.
Yeah, that's if Mustangs put dampers on their throttles, they might be in a better position. But um, and that took some getting used to, and I still don't think by the end of the weekend I was like fully used to it because there's instances where I really wanted to like squeeze in a lot of power, but like the resistance on my foot was a little different. So like I just my muscle memory for that like never quite got to where it needed to be by the end of the weekend. Uh,
I
uh,
feel like we jumped over something important.
yeah,
Maybe it's
what's
in your
that?
notes, but it seemed like you had a very, very, very like thought out approach to the weekend that you were like not going to you were going to execute and not deviate from. I feel like you should talk about that
Yeah, so
because we
uh
jumped into like details before we even did that.
yeah, gotcha. So Peter had very clear expectations with me driving the car. He didn't expect me to just go out there and like set the track record like first session or anything like that. He basically, this isn't verbatim, but basically what he told me is I want you to get comfortable with the car, and I never want to see a wheel placed wrong, which was basically what he said. Um so he didn't care how long it took me to get comfortable with the car, and he made those expectations very clear, and that made it very easy for me to just work up slowly. And I honestly, because the car costs as much as my house, I worked up as slow as I could bear. So like there was margin that I was leaving that I knew was there, but I told myself going in that I would, and we've talked about it on the podcast. So I was trying to apply like verbatim, like exactly what we talk about on the podcast, and where you just make the smallest changes that you can in each spot with like solid references. And the worst thing that happens if you brake a little later or turn in a little later or like use a little less brake and brake at the same marker that you were is that you have a slow lap. Like you're not gonna go flying off the racetrack. You're not nothing bad's gonna happen. So I was trying really hard to like put that into play. And I will say it was tough not to just be like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is exactly like what the car will take, but then like being like, well, but I can't be pretty sure. I kind of have to be like sure, right? So I was very methodical about how I worked up the pace, and by the end of the weekend it felt honestly like the GLTC car where I was just kind of like flinging it around. Um Maybe in the GLTC car I'd be a little bit more comfortable because I never did optimize the kink. And we actually had an interesting conversation when we were leaving the track, and I wish we'd have had it before we left the track. Dang it. But I realized that I have a bad habit where I'll look for references on the side of the track that I'm driving on. And I'm leaving a whole side of the racetrack that I could like find some references that will still be relevant. Um, I didn't realize that I was so rigid in that thinking of finding something relevant to brake at or turn in at or lift or whatever. Because the kink at this racetrack is probably like 120 to 125 miles an hour. And I was getting to it at 131. So I had to just shave off a tiny bit of speed, turn in at the exact right spot, and use every inch of the racetrack while hopping some curb that's like part of the other arrangement. And I never worked up to like every time I went through it, I went, that was a little slow. Every single time. I never like fully the car was never at the limit of adhesion from entry apex to exit, right? Uh
Yeah.
so and and I a lot of the weekend I'm just going, I'm scared. I'm scared. Like, oh, I just um like I would see we there was a bunch of people that do Grid Life iRacers that was there, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But there was a particular guy named Christian, and he was actually very impressive through the kink, like the amount of commitment that he had. And I was just like, he's just he's being braver through that than me. But I'm actually kind of surprised that I let my brain get into that spot, because that's not how I drive. I don't drive with bravery. I don't do I like my uncomfortableness and uneasiness in that spot was because I never found a relevant reference that allowed me to make those incremental changes, because the side of the track that I was on, the left side, was completely featureless. So I never found anything of like a consistent, like a lift here, or I brake here or what. I never found anything like that. So like the kink felt different. I don't know if it was the same. I mean, it was obviously different because like every time I would go in there, I was like a slightly different speed, and that is because I didn't find a good reference. So maybe it would have been a little bit different if I got a chance to walk the track. We never really got a chance to walk the track, but I think if I did a better job, or like properly troubleshot why I felt like uncomfortable in that spot, then I think I would have been able to optimize the kink sooner. Because I did 6 sessions and still never optimized that particular corner. I felt like I got all the other corners. Like basically that's what was in it, except that one particular corner. But everything else, I had good references. I had a good concept of like what I wanted my angle at the apex, when I could get in throttle, like how much I could track out before it would start to impact the other corner. I had a good like idea of all those other spots, but this one spot, um, I did not find a good reference, and I felt uncomfortable. So I think I take that away as a lesson, and I hope it helps the audience as well. If there's any particular spot on the track that you're feeling uncomfortable on, y maybe you just haven't found a good reference to, like, uh, help make that corner more accurate for you so it can be more consistent. Because once something's consistent, it's not scary. The same thing happens every time. There's no fear there. It's just repeatable. You do the same thing each time. You can make little small incremental changes to adjust what that thing is. But if you don't have any kind of reference at all, like I did in the kink, then you're gonna be you're gonna have the same feelings that I did, which is just feeling like, oh, I'm not brave enough. But like, yeah, I'm disappointed that my brain went to that spot because I know better, but like there being in the car and driving, I think it's kind of easy to forget about that stuff, and I definitely forgot about that this weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely it's 100% of the time if you're not confident or comfortable, it's because all discomfort is not knowing what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So you weren't, and in terms of a racetrack, like I know I forget where I saw it, and I can't like cite the science necessarily, but I know that I've seen before. There's um data that like the human brain can't really decipher speed. It's not easy for the human brain to decipher speed within the window of like a 15 to 20 mile an hour range.
Yeah.
So like 65 and 80 feel about the same to the brain. It's not till you hit like 85 that you start to feel like you're going that much faster. It's not like
Exactly.
specific windows. It's just like when you're within 10 miles an hour, the human brain struggles with that. So it's way harder to dissipate 6 miles an hour for a corner than it is 60, because 60 is so easy. It's like I have lots of time to do it. First of all, I have like way more speed coming off the car versus like 10 or less miles per hour. Like turn one at Mid Ohio is another example. Anything,
Yep.
or like basically half of Lime Rock. Like you're not changing speed that much. So it becomes way more important to have like reference points to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just like guessing all the time or relying on looking at the exit. That's the other thing, is I think the kink is so flat because there's there's no elevation. There's a corner worker station and tire walls on your right, which is where you're looking to the exit of the corner, and you're traveling at 120 to 30 miles an hour. So actually finding the exit is basically impossible, and there's no features on the left side to help you find a brake reference. So it's like definitely one of those just the kind of corners, kind of like deception at NCM. I find a lot of people struggle with that because there's nothing going on around them to help them figure out where they're going.
But like for deception, there's you can see on the very edge of the racetrack exactly where people are turning in because the grass is like an inch farther away from the pavement and then it's right on the pavement. You can see like there's a defined, this is the turn in spot for this corner. So you kind of just like, gauge what your speed is. Like based like,
And you
what's that?
and you know that because it's on the same side of the track that
It's
the
on the
car's
same side of the car, right? So like I'm like noticing like a half inch of like the grass to the pavement when it's on the same side of the car. But like I think I was too rigid in my thinking of like finding a good reference somewhere on the racetrack. I think just over the years I've had such good uh results with just, hey, I'm on the left side of the track, find something close to the car, because obviously that's going to be more accurate. A reference that you find that's closer to the car, you're going to be more accurate with, because your vision's going to be more accurate in locating it in its relationship to the car, right? You wouldn't do a
Yeah.
reference unless like you're aiming the nose at it in like a perspective, like at Laguna Seca you aim for a specific tree when you're coming down Corkscrew. um like but that's you looking like through the windshield at a object in the distance. But when something's like next to the car, I think like the closer it is, the easier it is to use. And if you can't find anything, then maybe you have to look across the racetrack on the other side of it to find something. Or so I'll take that away into the future. I think like honestly realizing that and us talking about that is going to make me a better driver. Honestly, Tom, man, I think like I'm so glad that you came this weekend, just because like some of the conversations that we had and like just the different ways we think about driving, like I think that added so much to we were talking at one point, like I have this like driving algorithm in my head that like is getting fed with like different learnings and new information, and it's like it's
Yeah,
just
if
trying
then.
to fine tune. Yeah, like I've if then statements, like that's what defines my driving. And then your driving like operates in a different way, but mine is very if then. So it's almost like a flow chart of like how to execute corners and laps and like move the weight around the car. And it's like it's very, very structured in my brain. It's very much like a flow chart, which sometimes has its disadvantage, like when I can't find a relevant reference, right? Um,
Hmm.
but a lot of times it gives me a lot of comfortability because I already know what's going to happen before it happens.
Yeah. Jake in the live chat asked, "Do you feel like that experience and being uncomfortable in the kink spilled out to anywhere else on the track, or was it like you were able to isolate it to that one
It
spot?"
was literally just that spot. I felt completely fine everywhere
Yeah.
else. There wasn't, yeah, everywhere else was, even like more dangerous spots. Like it took me a little while to work up on, turn 3, just cause it's like a blind thing. But by like the end of the weekend, I would turn in, I'd have to be opening the wheel and like kind of following the car, like into the edge of the curbing. Peter didn't want me like attacking the curbing too much. So I wasn't like full on Corvette GLTCing over them, I would like tickle them every once in a while, but I wasn't like just pounding the car off the curbs just because like the wishes were don't do that. And so I'm like, I'm obviously going to respect the wishes of the owner.
Tickle me curbing, Lizard Brains merch.
Tickle me
We need to sell
curbing.
like, you know how there's Tickle Me Elmo?
Yeah.
Ah, I
It
don't
would
know
be
how it would work,
no,
but
no. It's like a top down view of a car going over some curb, and then the curb will just have like a little cutesy face on it. It'll go hee hee, like because the car just
yeah.
passed by it. I like it. If anybody,
Uh,
if a single person thinks they'll buy that, say something in the chat or email us, and we'll make it a thing.
it'll be our version of Billy Big Mouth Bass.
Ryan's
Yeah.
like sold.
Sold to the man with the FRS
So that was
in
my
his profile picture, anyway.
those were my thoughts on my like performance over the weekend. I was really happy with the lap time
Yep.
that I ended up with. It would have
Yeah.
reset the Grid Life Street GT record by over 3 seconds. And I was told that the car's in TT3 in NASA classing, and it would have reset that record by like 8 tenths. But I was an HPDE, which
Right.
kind of leads us to our next story, guys.
Well, real quick,
Real
it was
quick,
fun to watch you. It was fun to watch you go through that process. I tried to just like be there and not like impose ever.
you did a
Like after
great
your
job.
first session of video, we were like watching the video and like, it's not for me to like say anything about.
Well,
I typically don't like contribute if I'm not asked anyway, but it was really like you did a really good job of executing what you wanted to execute and like get good at it.
yeah, and
Uh,
I kept saying,
the
I'm
way you
like,
wanted.
I know where I'm leaving the margin. Trust me, I know where I'm leaving the margin. Like I
Yeah.
know I'm watching this lap. Like I would not post this lap on the internet. Like if the car broke and then it was like, oh DJ, let's see some GT4 Cayman laps. I'm like, sorry, dude, we didn't get any video. Like, cause I know,
Yeah.
like I know there was so much margin, but like, I've never driven anything with the stakes so high before. So I was like, and I like, I when anybody, it doesn't matter if it's a freaking Honda Fit. If somebody's gonna trust me with their thing and they have like a particular wish for how I approach it, I'm gonna respect that wish.
Yep.
So
But do you need to confess any sins while we're here?
Tom. Yeah, guys. It was my first NASA track day, and it was my first NASA black flag. I it's the last. It's the last. They have like 4 groups of HPDE, and I was in HPDE 4, which is like the advanced, like no, like open passing everywhere kind of group. And so I'm in what should be the most experienced track day group in the thing. And I had to get like approval. I had to like submit a thing to like have somebody vouch for me to be like in that group because it's NASA, like nobody knows who I am, right? Well, there was like a couple of people there that like know me from Grid Life or other things. But the people running the event don't know who DJ Allison Drini is. And I don't expect them to. Let's be clear. I don't expect people just to
Right.
know it.
Wait, you should tell the story of the first draft. You don't have to say who you're emailing with, but your first attempt.
Oh, so I was like, yeah, I emailed, I carded with the guy's son, and we talked about Grid Life Touring Cup and like racing and its wheel to wheel series and all this stuff. And I even like showed him a video. I was like, yeah, look, see commentators, like there's me driving and all this stuff. He didn't remember any of it because I reached out to him. It was like, hey, so and so, I'm signed up for my first NASA event, and I think it's going to be really important for me to get good practice for one lap. To be in the HPDE 4 session, just so I get as many clean laps as possible or whatever. And they go, well, sim racing and karting is going to be a little different than racetrack stuff. Like, do you have any experience in real life? And I'm just like, oh, geez. I was like, it was like such a like an ego hit, like wham. So I put together, I got a little carried away. I put together like every single time I've been on a racetrack, which is like mostly racing. I've like hardly done any track days like ever. Like most of the time I'm on a racetrack, it's like racing a car. When I started to go through it, and I had a lot of fun. I like listed out all like the races I've ever done. And then I submitted it and was kind of a little coy. I was like, hopefully this is enough so I could do the track day. And then he laughed and was like, yeah, you're good. I'll send the email over. So I was in HPD 4, and yeah, I did my outlap. And I was having a hard time getting the front and the rear tires to be like the same spot of like ready to go. It always seemed like I had the rear tires like good to go, but the fronts were still a little cold, like when it came to like the first flying lap. So, and I kept doing the thing through the whole weekend where like my out lap would be too quick, and then I would catch like the back of the pack. So I did a slower out lap, just more like going and braking and going and braking and going and braking and just trying to get like some heat in the front. And then I start my first flying lap, and I'll be honest, Tom, I missed the first black flag. We watched it in video, And guys, let's be honest. Black flag is the worst flag ever. They were holding it against like a dark flag station, and it was right before the
Yeah.
kink. And I'm trying to find like a reference into the kink that me and Tom vaguely talked about. Like maybe there was a different colored piece of pavement or whatever. So like I'm looking around for that as I'm going 130 miles an hour. So I totally did miss the first black flag. And then I saw the black flag as I was finishing that flying lap coming in on the like the main flag stand. And then I saw again the first spot where they black flagged me. And I waved at the main flag and the second one, or the third one really, because I missed the first one. And I come in, I'm like checking my gauges. I'm like, oh my God, am I like leaking fluid? Like, is something wrong with the car? And nothing seemed wrong. So I just like drove around slowly, but fast enough where I wasn't going to impede anybody. And then I pulled in the pits and I was like, hey, dude, what's up? He goes, hey, hold on. And he like talks on the radio. And I'm sitting there. And I'm like, come on. Like, this is my last chance. Cause I never got a clean lap because I was doing bad out laps and I was catching the back of the pack. And there was a lap time and I knew I could get it. And I just wanted to go get the lap time. Cause setting lap times is fun. Right. So,
Yeah.
and he's done on the radio and he goes, yeah, you blew 3 black flags out there. And we're going to just need you to cool it down. And I was like, I saw the black flags. I waved at them. I not knowing that I missed the first one, but I waved at him like, we're cool, dude. Like I held my hand out the window. I'm like, I'm not shaking. Like I'm in complete control of the car. And he goes, yeah, we just needed you to like tone it down a little bit. And I was like, I'm just driving. I'm here practicing for 1 lap. I'm just trying to get a lap time. Like we're good, dude. Like the car's not out of control. Like we're good. I promise you. I know what's happening right now, but I'm not like about to go crash this car. And
Yeah.
and then I was like, and he goes, okay, sounds good. He seemed a little annoyed that I was in there, and it wasn't annoyed at me. I think he was annoyed at the fact that I was in there. Because like somebody black called in that this Cayman's gonna go crash himself, and then they're just doing their job at that point. So he's like, oh crap, I gotta go through like the thing, but like I could clearly tell that he's good because you Tom, you've worked track events. When somebody comes in, they're like a little rattled and they're just driving the car around. You're like, okay, we
Yep.
freaking saved this dude, right?
Totally.
But
So to clarify, the first black flag, which you do admit to missing,
I did miss it.
was for what?
Going too fast.
Literally.
I've never
You
been
got
black
black flagged.
flagged for going too fast.
And we watched the video. No wheel drops, no slides, nothing.
Nothing. No like tank slapper. Even my out lap, it's not like I was like flinging the car around being a lunatic. I was just doing an out lap. Nothing was weird. Literally nothing was weird. I got black flagged in 5 corners. The first 5 corners, they went, black flag that man. He's gonna crash that car.
Yeah, between the start of the lap and the kink. They
And-
were like, that guy's he needs help.
So, and we watched the lap. I just have like a good pivot on in. I'm carving on exit. I'm placing the car exactly where I want to place the car. And I got black flagged. So I'll
That's
take it.
wild.
I'll take it as an achievement because the car was moving and floating around in such a way that they thought this man's gonna die.
Yeah. All right. So like we've talked about it before. We have kind of a thing. I have absolutely had a thing for the last 15 years, no matter if it was autocross. It started with autocross, but when I went to track events, the same thing. It's not an event until I get
In trouble.
in trouble for something.
Yep.
There's like basically there's some level of operation that I mess up and I get myself in trouble. And you kind of have it too, but I've never been black flagged for just being too fast or going too fast ever.
Before that, the dumbest thing I ever got black flagged for was like using the curbing.
Yeah, which is also ridiculous.
Right.
But
So
can I rant about that for a second? You
Yeah.
don't need the music.
go
But
ahead. Oh,
what's so scary to me about that, as a person who's operated track days for like 4 years as my professional career, my main source of income, all that tells me is that these people don't know what they're looking at all. Like there needs to be a reason that the person is in trouble. Being being too fast is not an offense. Going too fast and going off, that's an offense. Going too fast and passing someone without a point by, that's an offense. Going too fast is not an offense. So if they're basically on a whim being like, that person's going too fast, they need to be black flagged. That to me doesn't make any sense.
No.
Because in hundreds of track days and thousands of drivers, I've never watched somebody be like, they're going faster than I want them to at this event. I've definitely been like, they're out of control. They've been 2 wheels off 3 times on this lap. I want to talk to them or something.
Or like,
but like, what does that say?
I've
The
called
operators
in,
of the event just basically said, I don't know what I'm doing. And they took away the value of their customer for it. They
Right.
basically took away money that you spent and time at your experience because they don't know what they're doing. That to me is like so inappropriate.
It was
They
wild.
owed you a free session. They owe you a free session, in my opinion.
All right. You hear that, NASA? But like, yeah, it was kind of like,
well, no, real quick before I get in trouble.
okay.
It wasn't NASA's choice. I guarantee you.
It was
well,
just
unless
a
they
corner
hire their own
worker.
flaggers.
Yeah, I don't think
It was
they
a
do.
corner worker.
It was just a corner worker called it in. It's not like it was like NASA people around the truck. So yeah, thank you for that, Tom. We almost got like destroyed.
Yeah.
That's why I think the NASA guy was kind of annoyed by it, because like I'm sure that guy's seen people come in and be like, oh, are we okay? And they're like freaking shaking behind the wheel, like they're like definitely like over bandwidth or whatever, right? So I've working like a grid life event, being like an instructor, like in the novice group, I remember there was a particular individual in a ZR1 Corvette, and the nannies on that car were working so hard to save this man. And every single time I saw this car, it was in a different spot, but it was almost off the racetrack every time. There was no consistency in it. So I called in the black flag for that person just to talk about like, hey, maybe place the car in the same spot before we're like leaning on all the nannies, because it seems like you're flirting with disaster, right? Now, I totally get, to that person, that seemed like exactly the same black flag that I got, right? I totally get it. Like they left that grid life event, went, I got black flag for going too fast, right? That's totally what they told their friends, right? So I get what it looks like, but when we watched the lap back, I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm not remembering it correctly. And me, Peter, and Tom, we watched the lap and we're like, nope, I don't know. I don't know why I got black flagged.
Well, it's a good thing you were in the advanced group. That's all I got to say.
Yep. So yeah, that was the first.
That's amazing. Congratulations. We should get a t-shirt just for you made.
I got black flagged for going too fast.
Yeah.
That would be the silliest shirt ever, dude.
And only you have one. On that note, real quick,
Your dad made me laugh. He was driving flat out.
Yeah. I need to clarify. When I ranted was it last week or 2 weeks ago that I ranted about people who spin? Whatever it was.
2 weeks.
It was 2 weeks ago. I need to clarify that. I went a little hard and I didn't quite say what I meant to say. Well, I did, but I feel like I've seen a couple people like joke like Tom would be mad at me because I spun. It's not if you spin. It's if you keep spinning. Like there was a car this weekend in one of the races. There was a little NASA NPO, like a Elon NPO1. Yeah, NPO1, those little prototype things. And we saw it spin like 3 times across 2 races.
Well, I think it was 3 times in one race and 1 time in the first race. I think it was 4 times total. It spun a lot.
Right. So the first time should be the conversation. The second time should be the like, your license is suspended. Yeah, like what's going on, bud?
Yeah. Like,
but if you just spin, I'm not judging people for just spinning. I need to make sure I said that.
The problem is when it's consecutive spins. When you spun and then you didn't check yourself enough to just like, you know what? We're just going to survive the rest of this race. But when you go off and like spin again and then again, it's like your whatever mindset or mental frame that you're in right now, or whatever it's happening with the car. Like if it's like, oh, well, the car's broken, it's get off the racetrack.
Yeah.
Like try again later. It's not working right now.
Right. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Monopoly joke.
So yeah, but
Um,
the weekend was super fun. One thing that I wanted to like kind of call out is this season, this winter in Grid Life iRacers, there's like a ton of new names in that series, and somehow they were all at this event. Like a
there were a
lot of
lot
the
of
new
them.
names. Yeah, a lot of the new people in Grid Life iRacers are at this event. So it was super cool meeting all of those people like in person. I I love that so much. Especially like after kind of being the guiding hand for the ship for the like last couple years. And then, there's old faces leave and new faces come in. Um and I feel like there was an era where like I knew the face of every single person that was in that league, and it was cool to like kind of keep that happening, just by
Yeah.
meeting all the people that I met this weekend. So, all the people that I met this weekend, like I think I enjoyed that more than you think that I would, just because like that community, the Grid Life iRacer community means so much to me. So just like seeing all those people was like super cool for me.
Right. um, I also had a lot of fun watching you and Peter. Just like your dynamic, I can tell from like the first morning that you guys are gonna have like the best time on
It's
one
gonna be
lap.
good.
And like so there I saw there's two things for sure that like one lap is weird because you're spending not just like the week together, but you're literally spending the week together. Like you're sharing the hotel room, you're sharing the car, you're on the track, like at the track. There's not a lot of privacy. So like if little things start to stand out to you, there's not a chance for them to like get palate cleansed. So there's always so for example, like last year, I've talked to Salil about this a bunch, so it's like a running joke. Salil would take, in my impatient opinion, way too long to pick a parking spot at the hotel. So we like had just driven 10 hours. We would get to the hotel.
Just want to
We're
go to
in the
sleep.
parking lot of the hotel, and it would take him what felt like the exact same amount of time as the 10-hour drive to find a parking space. And I would be like, by the fourth or fifth day, that was like so amplified for me because we had not like left each other's presence. So all that to say, it's also a joke. Like it's fun. Like it was basically we're giggling like, oh my god, just pick a spot. Uh, so we're like joking about it as we're doing. But anyway, the fact that I know you guys are set up for success. First of all, because you're both morning people. Because I would be up in the morning and I'm like doing this,
And
like
me
I
and me and
can't, I
Peter are
don't want to
hanging
be
out.
here. You and Peter are full conversation. Like you've already been talking for a half hour. Like you guys are gonna be good on that. And then also, the way you guys like to analyze and process things out, I think is very similar.
I think so,
Like I don't
yeah.
know if you caught yourself doing that, but um, you would describe the way you do things to each other, and you're both equally invested in how the other person is doing a thing, and then you would share what you're doing with that thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So I feel like you guys are set up to have like a really fun week.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it, and just for like the history of Peter Lear, and myself.
Oh yeah.
This is the guy that gave me my free race car back in 2019. So he was giving out the race car. It's in one of these episodes, but this is like the quickest version. Is he posted on a popular motorsports forum that he wanted to give away this car because like he thought that would be more useful to him than selling it, and a bunch of names are going around, but a bunch of people were saying, "Oh, DJ should have this car." And then somebody sent me the link. I submitted a resume. Peter chose me, gave me the car, and that's my GLTC car. So my GLTC car, which is currently dead but will live again, um, that's his car. He gave me that for free. But free. I found out that the car was the cheapest part of the racing, but
Yeah.
um, but Peter is what started me racing. So this is the same Peter, and he said I wasn't first choice for co-driver. He keeps reminding me of that. But I am in the seat for one lap, and I think you're right, Tom. I think we're gonna have a really good time. I not like I think just Peter's just a really entertaining individual, and just honestly like I think like to his core he's just like a very kind person. And I
Yep.
always appreciate those type of people. So I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. And we're gonna compete. Like we're both competitive, but we're still gonna have fun. And Yeah, I'm really looking forward to like trying to just put together the best event that we can.
I just realized we have a really fun opportunity to set up the podcast machine on one lap and then give Peter and Salil the microphones and then just let them do an episode.
Oh,
The
that'd be
co-driver
good.
podcast.
That would be good. Like,
They don't know
okay.
each other, so that'd be
Yeah,
even
yeah,
more
yeah. Well,
entertaining.
they would just like tell each other what the most annoying things about their co-driver is, like at the end of the
That's
weekend.
great. I love that. I love that.
They just get the bitch about us. I would love that so much.
This is the what do you call that when you just get to like complain and let it all out? Isn't there a
uh
word for that?
like a palate cleanse.
We could have like the airing of grievances cast
Yeah, 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 yeah.
with Peter and Salil.
Oh my god. I love that so much. I mean, they have to know that we're going to listen to it, but
I don't care.
maybe we'll tell them that we won't listen to it and we actually won't. It would be just for you, audience. Actually, maybe that one goes subscriber only.
There you go. I like that plan.
Yep. That'd be good. Hold
All right, how
on.
long have we been going? You got any other thoughts from the weekend?
Yeah, hold on. I'm looking through my notes. We got Booger Story on there. Cayman
covered
GT4
all
might,
mine.
might be turning me into a car guy. Oh, Tom has an ideal car to race in NASA, and it's a Crown Vic. That's what he told me. We're standing on a hill watching the racing, and he goes, "I want to race a Crown Vic in this series." I don't know why, but I put that in my notes, and I want Tom to elaborate.
Well, okay, so what I've had a lot of fun over the last like 3 years, this weekend included. NASA does like the most interesting version of local not local
Regional.
regional club racing where they do, if you've never seen this before,
It's
they
just
do
two
like
groups.
3 waves of starts.
Yeah.
So there's the faster group, the slower group. They all the faster groups on track at the same time, the slower groups on the track at the same time. But within the faster and slower group, that cars meaning, there's like 10 classes each. And they break those 10 classes into 3 different waves. And then for each wave, they do like a completely separate start. So like wave 1 comes through and gets a green flag, then wave 2 comes through and gets a green flag. And sometimes wave 3 does either a standing start or a rolling start. So you've already got like 2 whole waves of cars on track doing stuff. And then everyone like maybe comes to a stop on the front straight and they do another start. I love the balance of that because it means they catch each other and they're interacting with each other a lot, which is kind of annoying if you're just trying to like have your race. But where I'm at in my motorsports, I think it looks so fun to be on the track with that. And they I mean, they race each other basically like if you're on the track together, you're racing. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of like honoring who's in what class or whatever. It's just kind of like free for all. And I think it looks so fun. But the caveat to that is it has to be with a car you don't really care about because I think I saw like 10 different cars hit each other this weekend. Like there was a lot of spinning, there's a lot of crashing, but not really crashes because they
Not-
never go full course
yeah,
yellow.
I
They're,
never
like
s-
no one ever got like hindered.
I never
just
saw.
like-
Yeah, the whole weekend. I think each group had like 3 or 4 races. I mean, we left a little early on Sunday, so maybe something bad happened, and we're not talking about it. But the 3 races that we saw, there was never a full course yellow.
Right. So it's this like fun intersection, kind of like Thunderhill 25 Hour, which is a NASA race where you have like constant stuff going on, not just within your race, but because of other people's race. So my theory is if I want to race in that class or in that group where there's like controlled chaos and if the car I don't care about, dude, a Crown Vic would be so fun. I would get like you got to get like I forgot the name again, Marauder. Like it's a Crown Vic, but with like a big
Ooh,
engine in it.
And like a little lower.
A car guy would know what engine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I would want it to be really fast and straight, and that's all I care about. And then I would be on track in this chaos with my Crown Vic I don't care about. Oh, it'd be so fun. I would love that. Do that like 3 times a year. Drive it to the track. Put it on whatever tires. Who cares? That sound fun?
Dude, honestly, it did look pretty fun. They would do like weird stuff where it's like, normally multi-class you have like the fastest cars up front and then like, the next fastest class and it would just kind of like go down. Or they just like grid by time.
Yep.
Right? So like you might be in this stack of cars and like the person in your class might be like 2 rows back, right? That like second place in your class might be 2 rows back. I think that's generally how the SCCA does it.
Mm-hmm.
But from my observation, since they had all these groups, you could set a quality time or whatever, but that only set your grid spot in that group. It didn't set it on the overall grid.
No, they still start by class too.
Right.
So
So
like
they
SCCA is like overall both with their everyone's in the same start and everyone's on the same grid.
exactly.
But NASA is like everyone's in different starting groups and you're still gridded with your class.
You're
So it's
gridded with
like
your class.
way spread out. Like qualifying almost doesn't matter at all.
Right. So and we noticed that there were like they would like purposely they would have you'd have like the front group, which would be like the slowest cars in the group, and then the next one would be a little faster. They like intentionally embrace the chaos, which was like kind of like a departure from what like you normally see. Eh, the vibe I got, and I could be wrong. It was my first NASA event, but the vibe I got was like honestly was we're here for the racing more um than I thought it would be. Because like for instance, it's like almost the last lap and the only two people that were in the same class, they were kind of just racing each other the whole time. They pulled off together before the race was over because they already did the racing. They wanted to like skip the impound and all that stuff or whatever. I don't know why they pulled off early, but they clearly were communicating to each other because it was like one lap to go and they didn't finish the race and they just went in the paddock and like loaded their car up or whatever. Like
Or even if it was one-sided, like the guy that was leading started to pull off and the guy behind was like, well, I'll pull off too. Like we're the only two cars
yeah, whatever it was, but like
for whatever reason.
yeah, you could tell like the culture and like the atmosphere of it was like we're here to race. Which I don't know, seemed kind of cool, but also at the same time like I feel like my lizard brain would be like if there was like this slower driver in a faster car like impacting my I don't Tom loves the multi-class stuff, but like that specific instance where like I think the multi-class is fun too, but when you have like a pace discrepancy in the classes that isn't enough to make up for a guy that's like still trying to figure it out and it's impacting the leaders of another class, to me that dynamic drives me absolutely insane. So I don't know if like some NASA racing would be like my cup of tea, but I could definitely see like why it would be a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
All right.
I was trying to find a question or something we could answer quickly because we've already been going for a while, yeah?
Yeah, we have. Do you want to save questions for next time and we'll end the episode with who said what?
We can, yeah. I feel like this is a mess, but yeah, sure, why not?
Okay, so a couple episodes ago we asked the listeners to quote what well, okay, hold on. Here's the thing.
We asked the Discord.
Yeah, we're not going to know who said it.
Oh, yeah, we don't.
Yeah, we got to restructure this.
All right, well, we're going to work on this idea. Basically, we asked the Discord like their favorite quotes of the podcast, and we started a list of like these ridiculous quotes, and we were going to guess who said what. And we don't know who said what, and the list of the quotes so far is only about a dozen long, and it's ridiculous. I have no idea who said this. I don't remember saying any of the things that are on there, so if it's me, no clue. But we just realized we don't know who said it because they're submitting them and they didn't tell us who did what.
Yeah,
So we'll have to work on this a little bit.
I'm trying to think of how this would work though, because it kind of needs to be. We almost need like an admin of the Discord that's not us that can like help organize this and then send it to us in a format where we can like go through it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there is a question from this past weekend that I think we should just answer because it's from this weekend from Danny.
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. So this is in the Discord. Do the thing real quick.
Oh. Emails.
Wow, that was some vibrato.
Yeah, I threw it in there.
That's impressive. So we do email questions. If you have any questions, thoughts, funny moments, you can email us or you can join our Discord, which is linked in the description. And you can join our little community, which is closing in on 300 people with some chat. And, it's fun. Like, for this example, this weekend, we knew people were there because we have a Discord. So this is from Danny, who was at the event this past weekend. Hey, guys, was hoping to run into you this past weekend. I was racing Spec Miata at CMP. DJ, your fast lap was impressive.
Thanks,
This was my
Danny.
third race weekend, and I think I lost 1 to 4 positions on every race start. I don't think I can. I don't think it's a go switch issue in the sense that I can usually put the car on the limit first lap in qualifying or when hot lapping, and more just a fear of the turn one, lap one incident. I would lose touch of the bumper in front of me due to fear of getting crunched in the accordion brake zone into turn one. Then I would overslow or hesitate getting back on throttle due to the fear of getting caught in or causing any turn one, lap one shenanigans. I was also overly conservative with car placement and left too much room for others around me, which they had no problem taking advantage of. How do you balance proper level of aggression in the first few turns during lap one while still making sure you make your way through any club level craziness? Danny.
Honestly, this is a tough
Uh,
one.
this is a great question. I also first want to say it's not club level craziness. It's just race start craziness.
Yes.
If anything, they sometimes get crazier if you're not in club level. Do you have any thoughts? I kind of have some thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead. I see a lot of people struggle with like the how aggressive is aggressive enough or not aggressive, and it's like there's so much nuance to it that it's pretty tough. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, Tom.
I think the disconnect comes from it is ultimately down to what you're perceiving as fear. It's a discomfort with proximity to cars and an unknown of what happens when you're coming into turn one like that. But for me, the best way to handle that is becoming comfortable with the fidelity that it takes to control your car from a lower speed. Let me start over with smaller words. It is all down to yes, you're slowing down a little bit earlier to make sure that you're not going to get caught up in the accordion or cause the accordion effect or get in a little too hot. That's the smart move. The fidelity then comes in. You need to become better at and more comfortable with closing the gaps back up that you create when you slow too early. Or not too early, when you slow appropriately early. So like you start to slow down maybe a whole board early. You start to know like, okay, these guys are all going to be braking. I'm going to lift a little bit. And all these people in front of me are going to then dictate where I can go. Where people fall apart is they don't focus on becoming comfortable with closing those gaps back up. So now you're under the limit, you're going too slow, which is great. And instead of doing something with it and wielding that power that you've created for yourself by giving yourself options and having more room above the limit, above where you are towards the limit, they just sit there. Did what I say make sense? That's a
Yes.
no. So
No, it
basically,
did. It did.
you start to slow down a little too early, and then you don't do anything with the power that gives you. The power that gives you is all the options in the world of where to go when those options present themselves. So let's say you're in 2x2 and you start to lift and slow down a little bit early, and really nothing kind of happens in front of you. Now all of a sudden there's 5 car lengths in front of you. You're under the limit, and you have complete control of how much of those 5 car lengths you use. Becoming comfortable with closing those back up is where the power of the race start comes in. So the disconnect that you were struggling with, Danny, is basically you're giving yourself the space to make sure you're safe, and then once you get closer and closer and closer to the corner, the safer and safer it gets. You didn't close everything back up, and everybody else who's more comfortable around you took advantage of you because you left them places to go. How about that? Second try was better.
That was good. That was good.
Okay.
All right. I think in DJ words, on race starts, you generally want to put your car into the empty space. Uh,
Yeah.
there's a really good video on Driver 61. He's like driving a radical, and he's like, it's kind of an old video. Um, I'll try to find it. It's a video where he's talking about race starts, and he's like he's like talking through one of his clients' uh, race starts in this like radical series that's in Europe. And one thing that was said during that video that really stuck with me is like putting your car in the empty space. Now you can't put your car in an empty space that's going to disappear, and there's a pretty clear difference on those things. But basically, you want to fill space with your car for the reason that Tom specified. It leaves some place that somebody else can't go, which is probably in front of you, right? Um, but then it also um, it also makes you farther forward in relationship to everyone else around you. I remember there was a uh, race. It was a GLTC race start. It was my first year of racing. It was only like my third race weekend ever, and I learned a valuable lesson. And we were 4 wide going into turn one, and I went, I'm not going to be the one that ruins GLTC, and I backed out. Well, what I didn't know is I backed out into 4 wide on the second row. So like it didn't change anything. I just had less information of like where I was and what was happening around me. So for now, like now for me, race starts is I move forward into empty space and I leave my options as open as possible for what I can do from there. So if there's an empty space that seems like it's going to limit my options, and there's an empty space where it seems like I'll have more options, so, then I will pick the one with more options, right? And you get better at it with practice. When it comes to being uh, like at the limit of adhesion, was he talking just about race start or talking like
Yeah.
just race
No,
start?
no one's at the limit of adhesion on a race start,
Unless you're in the front.
except for maybe the front row.
Yeah.
Like so. So to me, everything you just said is way better than what I said, but we said the same thing. Basically, fill the space. The time to get aggressive is not on entry; it's in the corner. So you get aggressive by filling the space that becomes available with everyone being safe. You're making a great decision by being safe coming into that corner. Then get aggressive in refilling it as quickly as possible once you know that everything is fine. Um, the last part about I lost it. I even crossed my fingers here. Look to remember it. You said something about limit of adhesion. Before that, creating options. I remember. So
Tom is the only person I know that can do that. Like forget something and then come back to it.
yeah, it's because I got practice. My mom taught me this. You cross your fingers, and somehow, when you cross your fingers at the thought you want to remember, you will always come back to it somehow.
Okay, well hopefully I didn't ruin it.
Like, why am I doing this?
Give the
No,
thought.
no. So the key with race starts that people or something that people don't think about is like a pre-planning. So you're like, I need to pick the position that gives me more options, and you're like you become better at picking. You can think about those before the race even starts.
That's
And
true.
you can have a plan A, B, C, D. Like there's only so many things that can happen really. And even though you can't like predict exactly what's going to happen, you can kind of predict like the 3 or 4 things that are likely to happen. So for example, going into turn 1 at CMP, if you're starting in row 4 on the right side, there's only so many things that will happen based on the car positioning and the field around you. You can come up with a plan A, plan B, plan C for like if I get the chance to be on the inside, I want to take that. Or if I get the chance to do XYZ thing. For example, I'll share a specific example is a coda. Coda turn 1, you always, unless you're on the front row, you always want to be on the outside. If you have any chance to be on the outside, you want to be there. So regardless of where you are starting in the entire field, I'm thinking through before my race start, how am I going to get to the outside if I'm not on the front row? So if I'm starting 7th and I'm starting on the inside row 4 of a coda race, I'm sometimes even lifting to like get myself in a place that I can move across the field, get to the outside so that I'm in a better position for turn 1. And if that doesn't happen, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this. And I come up with a plan ABC. And if I get to plan D or E, that means everything went so bad, it's just got to figure it out. But I kind of have a game plan of where I want to be for an ideal and how I'm going to like create that scenario for myself. That's how you get better at not only just like responding in the moment to get to doing something that is beneficial to you, but also like creating a scenario where you can be a better racer.
Yeah, like for instance, at CMP, if you're on the outside and everyone starts and you get a slight run on the person in front of you, but the only option is the outside to make it 3 wide, maybe you just give the guy a bump draft because getting hung
Yep.
out to dry. And if you're familiar with CMP, like I wouldn't want to be 3 wide on the outside of turn 1. Like there's no way you're not going to get shoved off on turn 2. So like you wouldn't want to put yourself in that position. So like you would probably just shove the person in front of you, and that's how you're maximizing like that particular scenario. Now if the guy like misses a shift where you're going to like mostly clear them by uh turn 1, then that's a different scenario. Like you can think of all this stuff beforehand, and honestly it's kind of fun to theory craft it, right? You're like thinking of all
Dude,
these
it's
like,
so fun.
yeah, you're thinking of all the, and then doing it with other people is kind of fun too. It's like, oh, and then if this happens, and yeah, it's a good time. So like, embrace that. Yeah, I'm also intrigued by Tim's comment in the chat as well.
Well, real quick, and then you can even talk to the people around you about like, here's what I think I want to do. Like if you got a teammate or a friendly face near you, like the planning and the layers that go into like pre-green flag are way deeper than people think. But yeah, Tim in the live chat said he had too many autocross concussions. How do you have concussions from autocross?
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that next week probably. Coming next episode. How do you get a concussion in autocross?
Tim, can you write us an email, please?
Is it going to be? I'm going to bet hitting his head on his wings because he's got an AMOD car.
Oh, maybe, but yeah, Tim, let's.
What's your bet? No,
get-
what's your bet? You got to take a bet now.
Oh, I gotta.
My bet is hitting his head on the wing.
Tim drives an AMOD car, so maybe there's like a bar that he's like kind of hitting his head against.
Oh, that's a good one. I thought you were just going to say it's so fast.
It's so fast, you just get concussions from the wind. All
I
right.
turned the wheel and then I got a concussion.
All right, Tom, what's on your agenda for this upcoming weekend?
I was supposed to go to Road Atlanta, but now I'm not. So I'm hanging out in Ohio. What are you doing?
Doing the 12 hours of Bathurst with Ito.
Nice.
I think that will be fun.
In iRacing.
In iRacing, yes. Not the real one. Let's be honest. Guys, I didn't do that good at the track day.
Yeah. I did the track day, and then
Penske
Garth
called
Tander called me. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna be doing that, and then I gotta do some coaching on Sunday for iRacing, and I got some other stuff that I need to take care of. Like Tom and I have to do a bunch of videos for the SCCA that we haven't done yet. So
Oh yeah, more on that soon.
yep. So we got to do that. So yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing.
Nice.
So
Well, that was fun. I'm super glad that first of all we got finally an episode that we both did events, or you did an event, and it's not just me telling stories.
I'm also
And
glad
you did super great this weekend. You should be proud of yourself, and I'm glad you had so much fun.
I miss driving so much, Tom. I missed it so
Yeah.
much. I was thinking about it today. I was just like, man, can't wait till I can like do that more often on my own, like not off the generosity of others, but like just like I want to go do it, so I just go do it. I can't wait till I get to that point again. So
You don't have to rely on your generous Peters.
yes. Something it's like a little motivating, like just keep working on the stuff that I've been working on so I can go do that again.
Yep.
So, all right, Tom, I don't think I have the filters on. You heard the music and stuff in the episode, right?
I think so. We'll give it a shot because I've been late the last couple. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Lizard Brains podcast. We appreciate you. And if you're aspiring, you got a new thing to chase. Try to get black flagged for being too fast. Love your hair, hope you win. I still missed it. Oh,
Dang it.